Thanks for watching ABC 10 Plus. I'm Brandon Rittiman. It is the afternoon after election night, and we want to take this opportunity to do a deep dive on some of the races we're watching most closely in California. Obviously, a lot of attention on the presidential race, but right now, control of Congress is still up in the air, and there are three close districts that we're watching in California. You're looking at the first significant one to be called. Kevin Kiley, Republican, will hold his seat. This race has been called 58-42 against challenger Jessica Morse. Now, Kiley was expected to win this seat. It is a seat that became more Republican. You can see that it covers a vast territory along the Eastern Sierra. Also spills down into Sacramento. We can kind of just drill down on Sacramento County. And you can see even in the portion of the district where there is some urban core, and you might expect a little bit more heavier Democratic vote, the portion of Sacramento County that belongs to Kevin Kiley, which obviously is fairly small given the vote difference, has broken for him. So power of the incumbency on display there, perhaps, but really no chance of an overturn on that race. If we go ahead and take a look at District 9, it looks that the incumbent, Josh Harder, Democrat, is poised to retain this seat, but it is still within just about 2,000 votes. So this race is too close to call. It's a relatively urban seat, given that it covers Stockton and surrounds. Obviously, he's up against the mayor, so that's an interesting challenger to have as well. Only 2,000 votes separating these two candidates at this time. If we look at the portion of the district that actually covers more closely in Stockton, Harder is ahead there as the Democrat as well. 13 is the district to watch, and this is interesting because the lead has flipped. We're looking at John Duarte here with 51%, the incumbent Republican, hoping to retain his seat. And if we just go ahead and quickly, I want to show you what this result looked like 2 years ago, just for a refresh. This is the seat where both guys went to Congress and got the orientation because it took that long to find out for certain which one of them was going to be the congressperson. It ended up being a vote difference of less than 600 votes in this district just 2 years ago. We have watched this since last night flip from Duarte being behind to now being just ahead at 51-49. Whether that's going to hold for him remains to be seen. We still have, half of the estimated total vote out there. So when a race is that close, it's just way too close to call. This could be going on for days more. Possibly weeks more. We saw that happen the first or 2 years ago in this district, so we will be watching it. But certainly this is a race that Democrats were hoping they would be able to poach a seat in the House of Representatives by running Gray against Duarte. Right now, it's looking less likely that that's going to happen. But again, so many more votes remain to be counted that it's just a bit too soon to say how this one's going. One to watch in the days ahead. I want to move on to some statewide races. We have the propositions. We've done sort of a selection of maybe the most interesting ones here. Prop 2, this is public education bonds, $10 billion of spending. It has not been called as passing, but you can see at 57-43 and a 1.2 million vote difference. It looks like a pretty tough row to hoe for the no campaign on Prop 2. It looks like it is going to pass. Prop 3 has passed. This means that California voters have repealed the now obsolete gay marriage ban that was put on the books in Prop 8 back in 2008. So 16 years have gone by since that vote. At the time, Californians voted to ban same-sex marriage by a vote of 52%. Now we're looking at almost 62% going the other way and saying that same-sex marriage needs to be protected as a right in the state constitution. So it did two things. It repealed the ban on same-sex marriages. It also enshrined a right to get married regardless of gender in the state constitution. We can also kind of take a look at this as a heat map. It's really interesting. It gives you sort of a view of the politics of the state, the geography of our politics. You can see right along the coast, this is passing more handily. As you get closer to the Bay Area, it gets a lot darker green. But then as we get further afield into some rural parts of California, you still do see opposition to this policy. But when you add it all up statewide, we're looking at a 2 million vote difference in favor of protecting same-sex marriage. So that is one. I know liberals are not feeling too great this morning with the presidential race, but that is one in California that they can hang their hats on. Okay, we're going to move on to Prop 4. Climate bonds. This is another $10 billion spending package in California, all about climate resiliency. The idea is to do forest thinning projects, coastal resilience for sea level rise, that sort of thing. It is a big, complicated, several buckets of money and spending. There aren't like specific projects yet that have applied for this money, but is going to create buckets of money 4 projects to get done in the years ahead, trying to address multiple climate-related issues. I'm going to turn off the heat map for a second so you just see where it's passing and failing. We'll move on to Prop 5. This was a change in the voting threshold for local bonds. So Prop 5, there was some confusion. I think a lot of people thought it was going to create new bond borrowing and spending. It doesn't. It was just going to affect the vote threshold required for your local government, say your city, your county, your water district, your fire district, any of those kind of agencies at the local level, save for schools, have a 2/3 requirement in order to pass bonds. So if they want to spend millions and millions of dollars building new fire stations, they got to go to the voters, ask for those millions of dollars to be borrowed as bonds so that the voters can pay it back on their property taxes over the years in the future. Prop 5 would have reduced the threshold to 55%, which is what you have to get if you're a school district. But instead, the voters rejected it and have kept it at that 2/3 threshold, making it would have made it easier to pass local bonds. California has rejected the idea of doing that. And so it is sort of a vote in favor of local control. And as you look at the color of the map, I mean, you can see it was rejected almost in every county in the state, save for just a handful. And the heat map kind of shows you that, too. As you get into the more rural areas, it was more soundly rejected. So just kind of an interesting one is about what is the power of voters and how are we going to use it? And voters are saying, we like the way we vote now. That's essentially what you see in that result. We can move down to those props, by the way, all got on your ballot because of the legislature. So they were referred to the voters by lawmakers. So basically they pass bills. They say, we're sticking this on the ballot. We all vote on it. That's how it works. So the state asked for this money to spend on schools in Prop 2. The state asked for this money in Prop 4 to spend on climate issues, and the voters said yes. When we get down, the numbering system still doesn't make sense to me, and I've been covering politics a while, by the way, but when we get to the props that start with 30, that is when we get to the initiative section of your ballot. So these are the people with clipboards who bother you at Trader Joe's asking for you to sign their petition. When they're doing that, they have to get a certain number of signatures to get on the ballot. And that's what these other props are about. And some of the hotter button issues are there. Prop 32 would have increased California's minimum wage to $18 an hour, probably about 2 years or so sooner than our minimum wage would have gotten there anyway. California has an automatically adjusting minimum wage. It's meant to adjust for inflation. It's chained to the CPI, federal statistics on what things cost. And it's expected to hit $16.50 next year. It's looking like it's going to stay that unless for some reason there's some massive swing in the vote that is still remaining. Because there is about half the vote remaining, half the anticipated vote remaining, it is too soon to call this, but it does look in trouble at this point. Those who wanted to raise the minimum wage in California. I should point out, this came at a time when California was already doing things with the minimum wage, like passing a $20 minimum wage for most fast food workers. So even though this was going to take the general minimum wage up to $18 an hour, we already have some of the most well-known low-paying jobs getting a higher minimum wage than it would have imposed. It wouldn't have changed the fast food workers. It wouldn't have brought them down to $18 an hour. They would have stayed at 20, but other low-paying jobs would have gotten a raise if this were to pass. Still could. We're looking at a less than 400,000 vote difference, but that is still a pretty big gap to make up on a statewide level in California. There are a lot of votes out. We'll see. Moving on to Prop 33. This is rent control. Look at the color of the map. I mean, this tells the story, right? This has been on your ballot for the last 3 or 4 elections. Californians have rejected it by similar margins, about 2/3 in each vote, and it keeps coming back. This prop has appeared in nearly identical form before. It wouldn't have actually enacted new rent controls. It would have allowed all the cities and counties across California to consider enacting more rent controls than they're allowed to do right now. So right now, rent controls in California are illegal on single-family homes, so like a standalone house instead of an apartment. Cannot pass a rent control law if you're a city council about that. It's just not allowed. Same with housing built, I believe it's before 1995. Don't quote me. I think it's February. That's the universe of rent control that's possible. Anything built after that, not allowed. So this was going to really take those restrictions away, allow all the city councils and all the county boards of supervisors around the land to consider rent control in their jurisdictions and decide whether they wanted to impose them. Also would have allowed rent controls on the price of rent for new renters coming into a place, which is, a way rent control isn't typically enacted. So that's kind of an interesting wrinkle as well. Again, the voters seeing it and once again saying, no, that's not the thing for us about the high cost of housing in California. The Californians clearly just don't believe in it as the solution at all. If we take a look at the heat map, again, you can kind of see what I'm talking about. It does get a little closer in some counties, but overall, the voters saying absolutely not and rejecting this thing. And it's so resounding with a 2 million plus vote difference that this race has already been called. So Prop 33, not going to happen. If we go ahead, the last one we've got on our list that we're tracking, Prop 36, another really hot button issue. And this is fascinating. In a state like California that is known for having Democrats in control of the statewide government, that is known as voting liberally, we were an automatic assumed our electoral votes are going for Kamala Harris. You know, we were called moments after the polls closed because that's how much California tips that way. This is a let's go tough on crime vote from the great state of California. And you can see 70-30, it's a resounding vote. This is upgrading certain misdemeanors into felonies. So rather than going to county jail if you're convicted, you go to state prison and you go for longer. And what that does is it affects the state budget. So this is going to have a tangible impact. We're talking about more than $100,000 a year is the estimated cost to house an inmate in a California state prison. That includes all the overhead, the healthcare, the everything, okay? But that's the cost. So the analysts for the state tell us that this is going to have an impact on the state budget. It is going to cost us potentially hundreds of millions of dollars when all the local DAs across the land start charging crimes they're charging today as misdemeanors, but rather taking those charges and making them felony charges against the defendants that they're prosecuting. But Californians clearly know that there is a crime problem. There is an issue with organized retail theft. There are issues with drugs, and California voters are saying, we want to go tough on that. That's what this vote means. It's fascinating because Prop 36 was opposed by the governor, was opposed by the Democrats who run the show in Sacramento. But that opposition from the powers that be appears to have come way too little, way too late. There wasn't a competing vision for the voters to vote for. And so instead, we had this policy that was opposed by the governor just pass so resoundingly that it's sending a very loud message. What the governor, the administration, the legislative leadership is going to do with this in the year ahead will be worth watching because they were really opposed to this. It was a conservative-driven effort. And you can see the map has lit up entirely green. And if we turn the heat map on, you can see that it's actually doing pretty well, even in urban areas. Here we are in San Mateo County. 70-30, that we're right there in the Bay Area. We can take a look at Sacramento County, similar, 70-30. Even more when you get up into, say, like a rural place like Shasta County. We're looking at an 80-20 split there. So this was an incredibly popular proposal. Californians want to do something, is I think one way you could interpret this result here right now. And I'll just go ahead and put the totals back up on this. But so that's a look at where things are right now. And again, this obviously has been called because it's a 70-30 race. Not all of them have. We're going to continue watching these results in the days ahead as California counties continue counting ballots. They are doing that work now. They'll be certifying these results over the next almost month at the county level before sending it up to the state. We'll get to the Electoral College December 17th. We already knew how California was going to go there, but obviously there's a lot of attention on that national race right now as there's going to be a shift in power in Washington, D.C. as well. Thank you so much for sticking with us on this update here on ABC 10 Plus. We are so happy to be able to drill down on the issues that really mattered to California voters. We've really appreciated you helping to guide our coverage all throughout the election cycle this year. And please do reach out to us if there are things you don't understand, things you want to know, results we're not talking about here. Let us know, because we will bring it to you right here on ABC 10 Plus. Thank you so much for your time, and have a great day.
Thanks for watching ABC 10 Plus. And now that you're here, why don't we take a look around and see what else is here? The very first tile on your left is always going to be streaming 24/7. You can find us adjacent to that, breaking news if it's there. And then right next to that, a replay of the most recent newscast. Whether it's ABC 10 Morning News at 5, 6, or beyond, it's going to be there. The forecast beyond that, and then right beyond that, the news that matters the most. Now that you know the basic tiles, let's go up to the top and take a deeper dive into news. We have every single newscast that you would need, including To the Point with Alex Bell, taking a deeper dive into the issues. Beyond that, ABC 10 Morning News at 5 and 6 and 11, the evening shows as well. Below that, you can watch the top stories from To the Point. Under that, Dollars and Cents, where you can learn how to navigate this challenging economy. And below that, you can watch our award-winning ABC 10 Special Investigations, where we hold the powerful accountable. Going into weather, look, it's the 10-day forecast, getting you ready for the weekend and beyond. Beyond that, sports. I know you care about the Sacramento Kings. We have the most comprehensive guide to anything, everything Kings in the locker room and on the court. We have it. Below that, I know you care about the San Francisco 49ers. We can't mention Bay Sports without talking about the Oakland A's. We have that too. What's super exciting, I know you care about high school sports. You'll never find a more comprehensive guide and team dedicated to high school sports. Backing out again, come up to the top and join me on Verify. I'm super excited about this. Our experts are checking the facts, verifying the truth for you. Jump up now to shows. Very excited about this. Oh, look. It's Take a Look. This is my show. I love movies, and if you love movies or streaming shows, whether it's on screens this big, or this big, it's Take a Look. Recently went behind the scenes, sat down with Lady Gaga and Joaquin Phoenix to talk about Joker 2. I love the movie, and oh, I just heard you shout you hate the movie. Jump in, we talk about it on this show. Other shows, Bartell's Backroads, go up and down the state of California, tank of gas getaways, one fuel cell getaway, like places like the Toy Museum. This is what kids did before they had screens. Over here, the Moaning Caverns of Calaveras County, one of the most coveted caves in all of California. You know, watching this show, I discovered there's a cave that could fit the entire Statue of Liberty in your own backyard. You'll find about that and more with Bartell's Backroads. Down below that, To the Point. It is one of my favorite newscasts because they talk about news with Alex Bell the way you talk about news. It's conversational but in-depth at the same time. Below that, Your California Life. Love this show. Whether it's entertainment, food, beverage, lifestyle, it's there. Desiree Shepherd hosts and does an amazing job. So there you have it. It's ABC10 Plus, the app. What do you need? We heard you and we got it. Thanks for watching. Thanks for streaming.
We're seeing this question from a lot of people today in the wake of Donald Trump winning his second term as president. How many terms can a president serve? 2. The answer is 2. 4-year terms. Very clear. It's in the Constitution. It's the 22nd Amendment, right after the amendment that legalized booze again. Now, the history is fascinating. This started as a tradition, actually, with our first president, George Washington. He decided to step down after 2 terms, not run for a third one. That tradition got us through the 1800s, well into the 20th century, until in 1939, just towards the end of Franklin Delano Roosevelt's second term as president, the Nazis invaded Poland. The whole world went to war again. There was no law against it. And so FDR decided to run again for a third term. Then he won a fourth, died early in the 4th term. Germany surrendered within the next month. A couple years later, Congress decided, let's not do this whole 3rd and 4th term thing again. And they drafted the 22nd Amendment. Now, could President Trump undo the 22nd Amendment? Not easily. Takes a 2/3 vote of Congress or a constitutional convention, which has to be called by 2/3 of the state legislatures. And even then, the amendment still has to be ratified by 3/4 of the states. And that process can take years. In the case of the 22nd Amendment, ratification didn't happen until 4 years after Congress put forth the amendment. Kind of messes up your plans if you're trying to stay in the White House. Donald Trump has repeatedly flirted with the idea of staying in office longer than 2 terms. At the end of his second term, though, he would be 82 years old. 1 year older than Joe Biden was this election cycle, when his age became the factor that caused him to drop out of this year's race.